Well, good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. My name is Bita Mirzai-Azarm, and currently, as mentioned, I'm a branch chief in the Office of Pharmaceutical Quality. So the reason that I'm repeating that is because to demonstrate, since my roots are in Office of Pharmaceutical Quality, I should begin my presentations to define quality. A quality product of any kind consistently meets the expectations of the user. So drugs are no different. Patients expect safe and effective medicine with every dose they take. Pharmaceutical quality is assuring every dose is safe and effective, free of contamination and defects. It's what gives patients confidence in their next dose of medicine. The objective of my presentation is to go over some technical consideration in terms of injectable combination products as it pertains to functionality and quality. And also give you some information in terms of available information out there so that you can reference for your future development work. So why do we even talk about injectors? Well, injectors may enhance safety, they can improve dose accuracy, and also they can increase patient compliance. In terms of usage groups, we are talking about three basic usage groups. One is intended for use with wide range of drug products. We normally call them general injectors. The second is intended for use with certain class or family of drug products. And the third is intended to be used for specific drug product. 21 CFR 3.2E considers that as combination products. And this would be the focus of my presentation. Injectable combination products can be discussed in terms of packaging configuration. I guess the previous speakers mentioned that they can be co-packaged with the drug product. As an example, kits. It can also be separately distributed but labeled for use together. And also it can be a pre-filled with the product. Example is a pen injector and auto injector. And this is where I want to go with this presentation. Prefilled injectors can be further discussed in terms of their type of use, whether they are single-use, disposable, or reusable. By single-use, we mean the entire injector and the primary container closure, which is sometimes called the drug container, will be used once and then discarded. In terms of disposable, we are referring to injectors where the injector can be used more than once in a patient with the drug container in place. And once the drug container, and we're using the same drug container, is emptied, we discard the injector altogether. In terms of reusable, it is the same as disposable in a sense that you can use the injector more than once. But the difference is you are working with a replaceable drug container. So in terms of dose capability, again, we can divide it into single dose, multiple dose, and adjustable dose. This is an example of a pen injector, pre-filled, multi-dose, and disposable. Here we have a pen injector. The package has the empty pen. It's reusable, and it comes with single-dose cartridges. For an auto-injector, EpiPen is an example. It's pre-filled, single-use, and in this case, emergency use. Pen injectors and auto-injectors can have different features in terms of their design features. Like in case of pen injectors, some things that stands out is that normally they have a cartridge system. They're capable of multi-doses, manual mode, and also the needle component is replaceable and supplied by end user. This was also mentioned previously, but it won't hurt repeating. Who's the lead? We decide in terms of what the primary mode of action is. If the primary mode of action is the drug, then CDER is the lead. But if it is the device, then CDRH is the lead. When CDER is the lead, we go through multiple consultations. In OPQ, we rely on OGD for their analysis of comparative analysis by their division of clinical review. And also, we in OPQ will initiate 2 consults through our intercentral consult request. We call it ICCR. Our product reviewer will initiate a consult to CDRH for engineering device design, and the second consult is initiated by our OPQ facility reviewer for facilities and manufacturing assessment. It's worthwhile to mention that CDRH will not cover, the review will not cover drug device material compatibility. By that, I mean the extractables and leachables from the container closure, and also the absorption and adsorption of product components by the container. So that is not CDRH's role. They will not review sterility as far as the primary container closure is concerned. And also they will not review device user interface. They will review device performance, and they will look at the biocompatibility of patient contacting components or material as long as they're not in contact with drugs. For example, they will not review biocompatibility of a stacked needle or the drug container or the drug canister. They will also look at the device performance on stability, and they will also look at essential performance requirements. Moving forward in this presentation, I will use the term EPR. And they will also look at quality assessment, systems assessment. In terms of shelf life and expiration dating, you're requested to provide stability data on 3 batches of fully assembled and packaged injector drug product. You need to investigate the shelf life and expiration dating of your product under conditions of before use and also during in use, meaning how the product is being used, and also environmental conditions, such as shipping. Here are examples, EPRs for an auto-injector. It includes delivered volume accuracy, activation force, injection time, extended needle length, and in case of emergency use, cap removal. But please note that these are not an exhaustive list. Your selection of your device EPR is very much dependent on your product-specific factors. But keep in mind that when you're ready to send your marketing application, every single identified EPR needs to have verification and validation data for the EPR specifications. The guidance that you can reference in future is the one that I have on screen. This outlines the technical and scientific information that FDA would expect in your marketing application. We get a lot of questions regarding the following topics, mostly through controlled correspondences. In terms of stability orientation, number of active pharmaceutical ingredients, lots, and primary batches, lots of packaging materials, packaging of primary batches. So I will try to address each issue in the context of what type of guidance is there. So in terms of stability orientation, we have two guidance documents that talks about this topic. First, it is our Stability Q&A guidance of 2014, which clearly says that we need stability data of your product stored in orientation, in two orientations, upright or vertical and horizontal or inverted. There is also another guidance document titled Refuse to Receive. And in this guidance also, it clearly states that your ANDA should include both for worst case orientation and non-worst case orientation. And you as an applicant will need to convince us and justify what your worst case orientation is. And the reason that I'm mentioning that is that at your ANDA submission time, we request both orientations. But then, once you decide what your worst case orientation is, post-approval, your annual batches could go with only the worst case orientation. And we define the worst case orientation as the orientation that has the potential to negatively impact the quality and safety of your product the most. So in case of a prefilled syringe, I guess it makes sense that normally the horizontal orientation should be your worst case orientation, because for the fact that your product in the prefilled syringe will have the most contact with both the syringe end and also the stopper on your plunger. We have this case study for a pen injector where we have the pen and also the drug cartridge. The applicant convinced us that the horizontal orientation is their worst case orientation for the fact that they argued during their filling process, they always end up with an air bubble. And this air bubble, the location is provided for you. When it's inverted or upright, you can see where it is. And when it is in horizontal position, the air bubble is in the middle of the cartridge, and it only contacts part of the barrel. So basically, both sides, the liquid is in full contact to the stopper end and also the needle tip end. So we accepted their justification, and their annual batches was performed using the horizontal orientation. Number of API lots. As you know, we require 3 exhibit batches. In terms of API lots, we require a minimum of 2 lots of the drug substance to be used to manufacture your 3 exhibit batches. How about lots of packaging materials? Well, it is important for you to demonstrate that the performance of your device is not going to be impacted by variability in lots. So what we ask you is that if in your development work you can demonstrate that your product performance is independent from the lots of injectors that you're using, then by all means, your exhibit batch can be used only with, can be manufactured only with 1 lot. But in terms of your drug container, I mean, the drug cartridge, I think 1 lot would be sufficient. But keep in mind But CDRH's device performance stability requirement might be a little bit different because they are looking into investigating lot variability, also manufacturing runs and sub-assemblies. So when you're ready to send us your information, make sure that you're addressing both requirements, both CDRH and the drug product quality reviewers. Packaging of primary batches. As I mentioned, we need 3 primary batches. One primary batch using a full manufacturing assembly run. Why do we need a full manufacturing assembly run? Because that's the only way that we can look into manufacturing variability and also the effect of packaging process. And a subset of that batch should be placed on stability for drug product quality and device performance stability studies. The other 2 batches may be partial manufacturing assembly runs that produce sufficient finished product that you can place on stability studies for the purpose of drug product quality and also performance stability studies. I use the word maybe. Well, that depends on your manufacturing process, whether it is automated or manual. And also, it's also dependent on your overall control strategy. For a list of drug product quality tests, I guess your first stop should be USP1. USP1 contains tests for parenteral products, whether it's universal tests and or specific tests. As you know, injectable products should be visually inspected for particulate matters and also for discoloration before administration. So it makes sense in case of your prefilled syringe to be transparent and colorless because this would allow you to inspect your product for these 2 attributes. And another chapter that is referenced in USP1, which is an important one, is the volume in container, which is USP 697. 697, a reminder, is about the container excess. Well, you need sometimes a container needs to contain an excess fill to make sure that you can withdraw the allowable drug quantity based on what's on the label. So let me explain it. In case of your prefilled syringe, you need sufficient excess volume to be able to also compensate for your drug product losses. By loss, I mean if, for example, your administration requires a step for deaeration, you have to account for that loss in drop. And also you have to look at your prefilled syringe design in terms of if you're losing product in terms of the dead space in your syringe. But keep in mind, this product loss should not be more than the 2 areas that I just mentioned, because with prefilled syringes, it's given to the patient without any dose adjustment. So if you go above the sufficient overfill, then there's a danger of overdosing the patient. For your primary container closure system, we have the guidance document for packaging of human drugs and biologics, where it talks about qualification and testing, and also it references the appropriate USB chapters in terms of glass containers, plastic packaging systems, elastomers in injectable closures, and also biological reactivity tests, USB 87 and 88. You heard over and over again that there are different means that you can connect with us, either through the UDUFA 2 agreement letter or through controlled correspondences. I was just curious to find out, I wanted to give you an idea of how many controlled correspondences the agency receives. At least in OPQ, where I work, I try to run a raw test, and I just filtered my search by the word drug product, and it gave me over 1,300 controls in the time frame of 2016 to 2019. So this is a lot of controls that we are receiving. In summary, my take-home message to you is summarized in my final slide. You need to understand your product, know your resources, get product-specific advice. And this should be done in a timely manner. You need to be proactive and ask your questions way ahead of time. And another thing that I want to mention is, as applicants, you need to connect the dots. What do I mean by that? You need to provide us with compatibility studies between your drug constituent part and also your device constituent part through appropriate studies. These studies can be stability studies, reachable studies, or performance testing. And hopefully, this will lead you to an efficient drug product development, facilitates application review, and provides confidence in quality. With that, I would like to thank everyone.